Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. Alright folks, here we are on Wednesday, November 15th. We're going to take a look at Macy's today. So with earnings coming up, I thought we would come in and see if Macy's booms, if it busts, or if it moves sideways based on the earnings. Where might we look for it to catch some support, resistance, what have you? And we'll also take a look at the Think or Swim study and call it a video. So pretty simple Weeble chart here. I tried to put in as few levels as I could and still call out the strong ones. So just know in between some of these levels, there may be some more granular tight in levels that I just didn't put on because I didn't want to clutter the chart. For example, down here, there's probably one around 1114. But these other ones are actually relatively clean. There's not a ton of previous price action. There's probably one around here 1220, but we have 1249. So I didn't want to clutter, but just be aware of that. So situated where we are, if it moves relatively sideways, let's just start with that. I would look for it to sort of magnetize or pin itself to like this 1250 level, and just, whether it moves up a little bit, sort of edges toward that 13 and then comes down, maybe edges down toward 12. I'd look for it to just kind of waffle around with that for a while. Now, when it decides to break one way or another, then, that would change. But just to say, if it does have a relatively sideways reaction, that's the level I'd look for it to kind of more or less hug, would be that 1215 level. Now, if it decides to boom, 1377 kicks off a gap. You see this gap here that was left not too long ago. And it's also a resistance level. So it might catch some resistance or have a hard time getting in there if it does get up that high. But if it gets in there, it could fill that gap up to 1449. And then, we see where it goes. If it catches some momentum and over the course of a few days or weeks or what have you, continues to roll upward, 1548 looks like a level that, would also come into play to my eye. Now, just be aware, I said there's some additional levels in between. If it does get through this 1249 level, there's going to be one right around here. Just above 13. So if it does break through 13, I would look for it to catch some sort of stickiness there at least, if not some stronger selling pressure that would have to get through to even get into that 1377 gap area. Now, if it busts a bit, 1172 would be an area where I'd look for it to maybe catch some support. If it falls through there, the next strong level, I said there's one here, in the lower 11s, but 1066 would be down here. If it needed it, it's shown up there. Buyers have shown up there a few times in the recent past. So that's why I called out that to be a bit of a stronger level. But, that's a huge percentage gap there. So there's going to be, like I said, tighter in levels throughout that. So sideways, boom. The nice thing about potential for a boom is that there's a gap, like I said, and then busts, some levels down here. Now, on the Think or Swim side of things, obviously lengthy drawdown here from this $25 swing high, condensed and then basically turned that into a bear flag and broke down again. Now, we did see the trigger as it was condensing along this mid-range of the channel. It's exactly what you want to see. And then it fired and it just fell like a rock. So that was a good call out there by the TTM squeeze indicator. Now, recently we had a trigger, and let me do a little bit better job than that. We had a trigger and fire, and then we had a re-trigger and a refire. So you see this sort of like hiccup fire candles in between here. So trigger, fire, kind of nothing, and then re-trigger all along the mid-range of the channel, and then fire, and that brought it up out of the channel, but not really a monster move up out of the channel, and then came right back down and tested the lower bound of the channel. So it did stretch, upper bound to lower bound of the channel through that move. So that said, it has sort of completely played out that move for the time being. So it fired, it picked up all this bullish momentum, quashed it all, and now is sort of returned back to the baseline. So it's, it's sitting in the upper bound of the channel at the moment, but as it pertains to the TTM squeeze indicator in the histogram there, it's really just sort of sitting at the baseline. So it has sort of free range to move either direction based on that. But it has had, some bullish uptick. Now, I often say this can be a double-edged sword. This can be volumes picking up, bulls are stepping in, pushing this up higher. So reaction to earnings could be a carry through on this already perceived bullish momentum, and that momentum could kind of sweep it and help it sort of, really tick up to new heights. The counter argument to that would be, well, even if it's a relatively good call, folks could say we've priced it in because we've already moved the stock in the last couple of days from about $11 up to, near-ish to 13, or at least over 12 and a half, we'll say. And so we've priced a bunch of this in. And so maybe it's a good earnings call, lackluster response, and that could be the reason. So never quite know exactly how that's going to play out, but I just like to call that out when I see either a big drawdown in price ahead of earnings or a big uptick in price heading into earnings, to just know that could be either momentum that's going to get played out after the call, or it could be what would seem to be a counter reaction to the actual quality of the call based on it already being priced in, or some of the move being priced in. All right, folks, I hope that you've had a happy hump day. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.